we are honored to showcase a multi-awarding edu-leader and parenting expert with a history of working in the space of children and education for more than 15 years. In her tenure, she has implemented multiculturalism in the classroom, built gender-neutral school communities, and conducted trust-based observations looking at the challenges children face in schools. She is set on a mission of a happy child, happy teaching, and happy parenting. She is Miss Greshma Momaya representing India. Her session title is Bringing Gender Equality in the Classroom. Hello, Greshma. The stage is yours.
Hello, Anusha. Thank you so much for the introduction. Welcome, everyone. Namaste from India. And today, India is celebrating a big festival, Diwali. So happy Diwali to all of you. May everyone's life is lit with a lot of happiness, love, and good health. Yes, so I am representing India, and I have trained over 2,500 teachers so far, and now my next project that I'm working on is how can we as educators bring gender equality in our classrooms. Okay, I'm sure all of you agree with me that even today, there is, even in the most progressive nations, most progressive societies and organizations, we still see some examples of gender bias happening. And let's all educators work together in bringing that in a society which is not gender biased, and it is actually free from gender bias. So according to a report, Australian report in the year of 2020, mentioned that gender equalities actually is at peak, or it starts in high school, and it actually turns the bright young adults into anxious young adults who have already experienced being treated differently than their peers. And mind you, when I say gender inequality or gender equality, it doesn't mean that gender inequality happens only with girls or women. It is actually, it works both ways, like it happens to both the genders. So these young adults in that 2020 Australian report were both included boys and girls as well. Now when I say that, okay, this gender inequality begins in high school, there are some glimpses of it happening in pre-primary, in prime elementary, in middle school as well. And sometimes we as educators are unintentionally or unknowingly sowing the seed of gender inequality in our classrooms. Okay, so let us see how we can all promote gender equality in our classrooms. So first point is checking on our own bias. The first step is to check if we as educators or facilitators in the classroom are gender biased. Because a study done by Rikisa, she was a lecturer from the Queensland University, along with Professor Victor Levy, they indicated that these biases are deeply rooted in teachers' attitudes and behaviors. Many teachers favored boys, many teachers favored girls, depending upon the subject. For instance, there was a study that said that there was a more pro-boy grading behavior by teachers for the algebra subject rather than in history. Similarly, Mr. Matt Pinkett from King's College said that there is a mindset which is an anti-school mindset that is fueled by a stereotypes like that schoolwork is something that girls naturally do it best. Okay, this is a mindset. Okay, this is a stereotype. Now, there are many such mindsets and many such thoughts, or that are constantly going on in the schools. So the study that was done by Regisa and Professor Victor actually showed that only 15% of teachers out of 400 teachers that were part of the study were actually gender neutral in the behavior. And I was amazed when I read this number, only 15% out of 400 teachers. So it's not, I'm not saying that every teacher is promoting gender inequality, but there are, you know, unknowingly and intentionally we are somewhere doing it. So how do we check on our own bias? The first thing is by being reflective and being objective. All of us, you know, all the educators, mostly, certainly, we bring in our own preconceptions into the classrooms or into the schools, and this is why we all need to check on our own ideas and views. We need to help each other to recognize our possible bias. As you know, we always cannot see our own bias. Sometimes we don't know that we are biased. Okay, so we often have ideas about gender roles that come from our own family. For example, in my family, I have always seen my mother cooking the food. I've always seen my mother taking care of the family, and my father is going out to office and earning money. And there was whenever we do a topic in family, like, you know, when we tell children the roles and responsibilities of the family members, we always say that mother takes care of the family and the father earns for the family. However, that's not the case right now. So many moms are actually going out and working. So many fathers are stay-at-home parents. So instead of referring like what is the duty of mother and what is the duty of father, can we all just say that we all take care of each other? Every family member takes care of each other, instead of telling children what is the role, gender role of a mother and what is the role of a father. So that's why it's important to also check on our own biases. What are the experience that we have? So in this workshop, I want all the educators to just reflect on some of the questions that I am going to ask you now. I'll ask you around 3 to 4 questions, and I want you to, if you can write it down, fantastic. If you want to just reflect on it, that's also fine. So the first question is, what is a significant quality of a girl according to you? I'll repeat the question and I'll give you 30 seconds. What is a significant quality of a girl according to you? Can you all just compassion, power, attitude? Okay. Okay, thank you for sharing. The second question is, what is a significant quality of a boy according to you? What is a significant quality of a boy according to you? Empathy. I'm reading your answers also, so thank you for sharing. Energy. More physical strength, muscle. Okay. Okay. Power. Okay. Now, how did we get to know these qualities of a girl or a boy? Either it has been told to us, or maybe some would have even observed it. But when I'm telling you these qualities and when you're reflecting on it, are you bringing these thoughts or these biases into the classroom when you are interacting with children? So when you interact with a girl, do you think that she's empathetic? And when you are interacting with a boy, you think he's more powerful, he has more energy? Are we bringing these biases in our classroom interactions? Is what I want you to now reflect on. No, if you are not bringing it, it's fantastic. Sometimes yes. Thank you, Mona. Yes, sometimes yes, it does happen. Anyone would like to share? Are we bringing any such? Yes, generally it comes. Yes. Great. Thank you for sharing your reflection. So let's check on our own assumptions, because many a times, teachers assume that a girl will want to either read a book or, go to a dress up area, or, dress up play or play hopscotch. Vis-a-vis, boys would want to play sports or do some construction work. And what happens in the classroom that, I have observed that when we are giving choices to children on what they want to play, many a times when a teacher is giving the choice to a girl, she's actually asking, do you want to read a book or do you want to do a dress up game? And at the same time, when a boy is asking, the boy is given a choice by the teacher, do you want to go and play out, or do you want to do some construction work? And this is again not intentional, it is just happening unintentionally. So I think we need to, instead of giving a choices like this, we need to follow the children's interest whenever possible. We need to allow them, if a girl wants to choose to play out or do some construction work, I think that should also be fine. So giving them, when we check on our assumptions, we see that these options, these choices are given in a better way and are not gender biased. Okay. And secondly, how we can check on our own biases is by also getting feedback from your colleagues or students. Consider getting some feedback from your colleagues on any difference that they may notice, like how are you treating boys and girls? Are you treating them in the same way or treating them differently? You can ask your colleagues about it, because sometimes we are so much into the rush of curriculum and our day-to-day routine that how we interact with the boy and girl is very different. And if you work with higher age group like middle school children, high school children, you can also ask them, take feedback from them. So the first part was checking on the bias, on our own bias. Now, second is interaction between teacher and student. So it is important for us to use gender neutral language when we are interacting with students. The first point is address your students equally. When I say that, instead of saying girls and boys, try to use students. Okay, when you are referring to your children, to your class children, you can use students more often. Sometimes when I've seen in many schools that when children go for that, when they are celebrating their birthday and they go for that sweet distribution, the teacher generally says that if it's a birthday boy, then the teacher says choose a boy to go with you. Okay, can we say choose a friend to go with you? Let's not again bring gender everywhere. Yes. Second point is to in using gender neutral languages, avoid using pet names like champ, buddy, mate, honey, sweetheart. This is because when you are using such names, we are unknowingly displaying boys to be much more tough and girls to be tender in their personality. So when you say sweetheart to a girl, it's a more tender. Yes. And when you say buddy and champ to a boy, it's more, you're showing that a boy is more tougher. So we need to use terms that are more gender neutral. Avoid the term guys, which may make female students feel excluded, and not part of the group. You can instead use a more gender neutral pronoun like everyone instead of using guys. Okay. These are very common things, but that generally happen in most of the classrooms. Avoid stereotyping children. Example could be, we generally think that boys are more noisy, more loud, and girls are more calm and more sweet. Boys show less emotion, girls can cry more easily. So when you talk in such a way, most of the times when the teacher is consoling a boy or even a parent, they say don't cry like a girl. And we don't realize that these often subconscious assumptions will affect their behavior and also the expectations that we have from our children. Avoid stereotyping children like this. Yeah, because then boys are actually not, because when you're constantly told from your childhood, don't cry like a girl, don't cry like a girl, the boy is not allowed to share emotions. Yes. Next is learn about children as individuals. I'll share an experience here to explain this point. I once had a conversation with a new teacher, and I thought it was a very, very excellent conversation. Um, and I was sharing how I'm committed towards, ending gender stereotypes in classroom. And she also echoed the same importance. And the next day I was on observation and I was seeing how children are being greeted. And the same teacher, the next day I saw the same teacher greeting a girl at the door and asked her just to strike a conversation. She was asking, which is your favorite color? And the new teacher didn't actually wait for the girl child to respond and immediately ask the next question. Is pink your favorite color? So we are just assuming that pink will be a girl's favorite color and blue will be the boy's favorite color. So I'm saying, it's okay if pink is a girl's favorite color, that's their choice. But let's not put those thoughts and those answers in their mouth. Okay, let them choose the colors they want. Next is evaluate the way you greet the students in the morning when they come to school. Many a times I've observed that teachers say, "Oh, you are looking so pretty today." What happens is, when you, on an everyday basis, if you are commenting on the physical appearance of the child, we are actually unknowingly sending a message that, adults internalize beauty standards for women and girls. And this is a big lesson that we do not want to pass it on to the next generation. Every girl, every woman is beautiful. So instead, use different way of greeting children. Avoid commenting, even if it is a good comment that you are giving them. Avoid commenting on their physical appearances. Next, the next point is avoid asking students to speak on behalf of their gender. Rather than use it, ask it on a big, larger group. What happens is, sometimes when we are narrating a story where the boy is the main character, we tend to ask a question when we are asking children to reflect. We ask them, how do you think most boys would feel about this story? Let's rephrase it. And we can rephrase it by saying that, how did you feel about the representation of the men in this story? Yeah. So we need to be very, very aware and alert of the kind of questions also that we are asking children. And the next point is self-regulating our interaction with children. When children are sad, many a times, unknowingly, teachers will comfort girls a little more, and boys would be asked to kind of be a more tougher, and they will be asked to be on their own little faster. So the comforting will be little less to boys and more to the girls. So this needs to be self-regulated and you need to be aware of it. So encourage all the children to share feelings and emotions equally. Okay. Next, so this was interaction between teacher and student. Now, next point is, how do we promote gender equality through student-student interaction in the classroom? Now, first is encouraging mixed gender friendships. Be aware, as educator, we need to be aware that do we have a tendency to encourage only single-sex friendships? We sometimes have our own concepts that subconsciously we encourage only single sex friendship. So be aware of that. Second is equalize airtime. Now, studies show that, boys actually begin to interrupt other children at a very, very young age. Now, what happens is many children who are interrupted when they are talking, they actually just stop talking. Okay. So what happens is sometimes boys are louder. If they are louder, if they are, interrupting, other children might be very quiet and they won't speak. Okay, so we need to teach other children also to say that I am not finished yet, or I wasn't done speaking as yet. Okay, but I am adding this point here because we as educators need to be aware of it first, whether any such things are happening in your classroom. Okay, next is evaluate children's assigned and organic roles, especially during group project when you are mixing boys and girls together. Many a times when they are even self-selecting the roles, for the project, the girls many a time would select like a role of a recorder or a secretary. Now, if you observe this in your classroom, you need to take action to rotate the roles, okay, and help them share accountability. The roles needs to be changed. If it's only a girl that's taking the recorder role for the project, we need to change. Next is teach consent to your students. Remind them to ask before they touch other, and that consent can be withdrawn anytime, and model this yourself too. I'll share an example here and in an experience here. There was a child. She was having a tough time entering the classroom. She was crying. She was crying, and maybe the child was just having a bad day. So one energetic assistant teacher came in. She picked the child and she kind of just took her up and started jiggling her and tickling her. And the teacher didn't realize that this trick must have worked well with other children, but it actually backfired that child. That child got very scared because suddenly the teacher is coming and touching her. She was not used to it. And after having the interaction with the parent told us that the child is used to adults asking for consent before touching them. So we as teachers also need to be careful of that. Next is helping boys lose gracefully. If a girl beats other classmates at sports or shining academically, don't console the boys or feel the need to, shore up their self-confidence, because boys will sometimes have to lose to the girls in the classroom or someday in future in the boardroom also. Okay, so I'm just saying that it's okay whether the girls are losing or boys are losing, but when boys lose, then we have a tendency of comforting them a little more. So the earlier they learn this, the better, and help them to take this defeat very, very gracefully. Next is the last point in this is some children will already come with a preconceived ideas about gender. Now, if a child does say, for example, that the girls are playing a game and the boy wants to join in, the girls will say, no, the boy cannot play the game because it's a girl's game. Now, whenever you hear such comments in your classroom from children, use this as a teachable moment and unpack how the comment made the boy feel, and also why as educator we do not have any gender specific task in the classroom. Okay, because this happen more often. Sometimes when boys are playing together and if girl wants to join the group, they say that this is a boys game and the girl cannot play. It happens in both the ways. Okay, so use this moment to explain them that we do not have gender specific games or tasks in the classroom. Okay, the fourth point is curriculum and teaching aids. Many classroom materials, especially those that are older, may contain gender bias in activities, in photos or words. And these materials can include your textbooks, flashcards, images, reading materials. So having students use materials like these in the class can reinforce stereotype about gender roles in society. And research has found that stereotypes and gender bias in English language material do exist even today. Several studies by UNESCO have found that some texts underrepresent women, contain stereotypes about women, or also contain offensive comments about women. Let me give you an example. Flashcards. Flashcards. Any flashcards you take, especially community helpers. The teacher is shown always a female, the nurse is shown always a female, and doctor is always a male, pilot is always a male. So check on the teaching materials. If there are such teaching materials in your school, make sure that when you are showing flashcards like this, there should be a male and a female teacher. There should be a male pilot and a female pilot. Okay. Similarly, use gender neutral words for professions. For example, instead of saying policeman, policewoman, you can say police officer. Instead of using chairman, use chairperson. Okay. So we need to kind of change that language in a classroom. And also, you can ask children to draw their idea of firefighter, police officer, and a nurse. And then you can invite a female fighter, a female police officer, male nurse into the classroom, invite them to talk to the children about their jobs, and then unpack the children's drawings and expectations about the visitors. Because most of the time when we even today, if you close your eyes and if I tell you firefighter, you will always imagine a male firefighter and not a female firefighter. So that's how deep rooted these are. Okay. Now, how do we identify these biases in our material and curriculum checklist? We need to ask ourselves, are the materials used by the teachers or students free from gender stereotype? Do the materials show female and male in equal amount of times? Do the materials show female and males with equal respect and potential? Does the curriculum reflect the needs and life experiences of both males and females? What happens is many a times, even when you are reading storybooks, you can introduce children to female as well as male authors. When you are introducing them to the famous personalities of the world, show male and female personalities equally. Okay. Next important point is avoid separating supplies, the materials that we children use, like the toys. Jumble up everything together. Do not separate them by gender. Jumble up all the dress up, toys, games, blocks, etc. So all children have equal opportunity to use the equipment. Okay. And next point is gender bias free classroom environments and strategies. Many times we make children stand separately by gender. We say, okay, boys come on this side and the girls come on this side. So never make your class students separate on gender bias. Okay. Try not to assign classroom tasks that traditionally relate to a specific gender. Most of the times the teacher will ask a boy to move all the desk and chair and all that. And girls will be asked to clean up and tidy up the dress up corner. Okay. Next thing is audit the bookshelf in your classroom, class library, or your school library. Most of the times I've found out that the protagonist in a children's book was 8 times more likely to be male than female. So these are certain things that you also need to do an audit of, or check your library books. Finally, as teachers, we have some amazing opportunity to model gender equality in our classrooms. My whole efforts and the idea of choosing this topic is that I hope that we as teachers or educators never have to ensure that we have a classroom where gender equality is promoted. We never will have to ensure that, because it is no longer needed, because gender inequality will not be there. And that's the reason I've chosen this topic today, and that's the project that I'm working on. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me, and I think we have few minutes for questions.
Thank you for your engaging session, Greshma. You had our full attention. Everybody was listening to you. We were your students and you were our teacher. Thank you for breaking the gender-biased classrooms, teaching aids, and mindsets of educators, which are gender-biased, and eventually making us aware about how to have more inclusive classrooms. So we have so many messages from you, from all over the world. Tina Sharma shares, there is a boy in my online primary class who is an attention seeker. After completing the syllabus, he is not attentive even on the revision time. He does something or the other which distracts the attention of the whole class. How to handle such children online?
How do we handle such children online? One thing is, we also need to check the attention span of the child. Okay, depending upon the age, some children have more attention span, other children have less attention span. Okay, so what we were doing, now we have gone offline, but when we had online classroom, if you have two teachers in the classroom, one teacher would take the child in a breakout room and try to engage the child one-on-one, so that the child's energy is also kind of channelized, and then bring back to the main classroom. Or you can use an energizer for everyone at that time, if you're feeling that using an energizer will actually get the child's attention, the boy's attention. You can try these two things.
Thank you so much, Greshma. Dr. Pratima Khandelwal writes, gender biasness is deep-rooted in homes, upbringing, and society at large, and thus it's in the belief systems. Many roles like firefighting, high-risk sports, and activities have been gender-specific since ages. Evolution too has a strong role to play. Today, things are definitely changing towards gender equality. It shall take time, as bright days are certainly ahead. To grow neutrally, parents do have a huge role to play. Do you agree, Greshma?
Of course, parents play such a huge role in this, and I absolutely agree with you. So it's important for us educators, when we conduct workshops for parents, right? For different reasons, we do ask parents to visit the school. Why can't we also make parents aware of this? Aware of these small things that are happening, in the interaction between the family members. So it's important, instead of having a family night, all the entire family can be called for a workshop together, and we need to sensitize parents also about these gender bias that are happening in school as well as at home also.
Thank you so much, Greshma. And we have Sia Rosindar questioning, many a times children do not respond, they get engaged in gaming in online class. What approach we can use to make them respond? They are unresponsive.
Okay, many times children do not respond, they get engaged in gaming in online class. That is something, it is a challenge that most of the educators did face during COVID also. One thing is, we need to see, I believe so, I'm not blaming anyone here, but I believe so that if a child is not getting engaged in the classroom, maybe he's a different kind of learner. Every learner has a different way of learning. So if we are using only a video or a auditory mode of teaching them, the child is not interested. Maybe child is a kinesthetic learner. So I think for one thing is, we need to check on the attention span. Second is, we need to check on what kind of learner the child is. Okay, now if the child is a kinesthetic learner, when other children are watching the video, can we ask the child to do something else? Okay, this is something that you can check and see if it is working with this child.
Thank you so much, Greshma. Thank you, Sia. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. I do have the questions. Well, we do have questions from Unime Udi, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Thank you so much for your presentation. We live in a part of the society that boys are expected to respect girls because of the rampant domestic violence in homes. So how do we avoid that in this part of our society?
Okay, can you just repeat that question again?
Sure. Thank you so much for your presentation. We live in a part of the society that boys are expected to respect girls because of the rampant, I think it's rampant domestic violence in homes. So how do we avoid that in this part of our society?
Where boys are expected to respect girls, right?
Yes.
Am I right, Anusha?
Yes.
Okay.
Because of this domestic violence, yes.
Okay. So, see, as I said, domestic violence happens at home. How much ever we try to bring gender equality in classroom, but if the child is being exposed to a different kind of environment at home, the child is obviously going to have an influence on that. So I think that's when even Dr. Pratima said that it is so important for us to sensitize parents, to make parents aware of what is the right thing to do. Okay, how can we respect women? And it's not just boys respecting girls or girls respecting boys, but I think the rule or the philosophy of the school should be that we respect everyone in the school. Okay, irrespective of the gender, race, post, designation, we respect everyone in the school. One, that should be the motto or the philosophy that every person in your school should be saying. And secondly, I would suggest that it's important that you sensitize the parents about it. Domestic violence is wrong in many levels, at many levels. Okay, maybe I don't think we could interfere so much in the parents' life, but at least we can only suggest them to go for a professional help or a marital counseling. But I have my doubts on up to what extent we can, actually interfere in their lives.
Thank you so much, Greshma. I do have a question for you as well.
Sure.
Knowingly or not, the gender biased discourse has been deeply and, like you mentioned, hegemonically ingrained in our everyday practice. So by using gender neutral expressions, like you mentioned, can we bring out drastic changes in our cultural practices, which is very important?
Yeah, I'll give you my example of today. As I told you, today is a big festival in India, and today most of the women in the society are expected to be at home to do the puja or the rituals. But my family finished everything before, because I had a session at 4 o'clock. They finished everything, and they kind of supported me to be, so that I could take a session today on a big day like this without judging me. So I think if we start speaking about it more often, I think people understand the importance of it. So today, my family has supported me, and if I am speaking about it openly, tomorrow, other families will support their daughter-in-laws, also. So yes, it is deeply rooted, and I think today, whoever is present here has somewhere gone through that gender bias thing in their lives. But how we make other people aware of it, that's why I have taken up this project, because I want to make other people aware on how we communicate to children is so important in actually changing the mindset. Yes, gender equality is deep rooted, but only educators can pull it out of the system, pull it out of the societies by doing these small changes in our schools and classrooms.
Thank you so much, Greshma. We have MD Museum Hussein asking, thanks for nice presentation. Gender bias sets rudimentary limits on future potential and creates inequality in the classroom. It discourages girls from taking courses such as math, science, and engineering. What strategies can be encouraged for teachers and parents?
Okay, yes, this is actually a good observation because many studies say that there are many girls who do not, I'm not talking about all the developed countries, but many underdeveloped countries and developing countries, girls do not take math, science, and engineering like subjects. Mainly because sometimes, especially like, that sometimes it happens in India also, not in everyone's family, but they say, why do you want to learn engineering? You have to finally get married and go to someone else's house, right? So why do you want to study engineering? So as parents and teachers, we need to avoid using such comments with our children. Okay, first thing. Secondly, more, of course, we need to motivate children. So when you are having a girl child who is not interested in any of these subjects, we need to understand why she is not, interested in it. Is it something that is bothering her, or is there something that, that has made her not like the subject? That once we come to know that, only then we can work on making her like the subject. Okay, so yes, math, science, and engineering, girls do not choose it, and it is mainly because there are certain statements that are being used by the adults in her environment, okay, that makes them not select the subject. So we need to restrict on that. And second, identify why the child is not interested in these subjects.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Greshma. Thank you for really nicely answering those questions. And do have another question for you.
Yes.
We do have some time left. So by just using polite language, or just having these sessions and just ensuring something, by just using polite language, gender equity cannot automatically be established. Do you agree?
Yes, it's not just the way we communicate, but there are many other things that we need to do. As I said, we need to change first the mindset. And how the mindset can be changed is only through making people aware. So one is through, of course, conducting workshops like this or communicating, but also being aware. Most of the time what happens is, to bring a change, we need to be first aware whether we are being biased. Okay, whether we are unknowingly promoting gender inequality. So that's why it's not just communication, it's also about checking on the curriculum, checking on the materials that we are using with children, checking on the kind of strategies that we are using with children. Even simple thing like, uniform dress code. Why can't we have the same dress code for both boys and girls? Why have separate dress code? Okay, these small things can make a lot of difference, and it's just not communication, but along with how we interact. Because what happens is, why I emphasize so much on interaction, there are certain statements that will stay with you for a lifetime. Okay, so that's why, and especially between the age group of, like, say 2 to 10 years, it is so important that we use the right kind of language with children. That's why I was emphasizing on the interaction bit of it. But along with that, even the curriculum, the material, and the whole environment of the school matters a lot in bringing this change in our schools.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Greshma. Thank you for putting it such nice. Thank you so much for putting it so nicely. And we have Dr. Pratima Khandelwal sharing, culture has a huge role to play. It's again has deep and time-tested roots. Phrases like ladies first have been in it as till date. Even ladies expect the same. Exactly is this aspect of the respecting woman by men community. So it's more of multi-directional approach.
Of course, thank you for sharing such a beautiful thought. Yes, ladies first is another a very gender biased, though many people do like it, but it is still a gender biased thing, where we have ladies first, or we have men opening door for women, while getting down from the car, or a men paying for the bills, for the restaurant bill. This has to change. Small these things have to change, and we as women also have to stop expecting this from the men in our community. Okay, Why should men always pay the bill? If you are independent, if you are earning, even you can pay as men. Yeah. So thank you for sharing such a wonderful thought with all of us, Dr. Pratima.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Greshma. And is there any website or a blog site that we can all visit so that we can know more of your educational practices? And
Yes,
you can also connect Greshma on educationinfluence.com too. You can direct message her, collaborate with her, share sessions with her. You can do much about anything. So yes, www.empowerwithgreshma.com. Wow. So we can just visit her in that website. If you have any more questions, please do. We do have around 7 minutes, more than 7 minutes. So please unmute yourself if you do have any questions. Please, the floor is yours. If you do have any more questions for Greshma. Anybody?
Okay, I would like to ask.
Hi, Alexander. How are you?
Hello. I'm fine.
Hi.
Good morning.
Thank you so much,
fine.
Alexander, for speaking up. And I do like to remind you that you have 7 minutes. So 7 minutes for including Greshma's answer. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much once again, Anusha and Gavin, and every one of us making this education influence go far, far, far. Greshma, I really appreciate your presentation. It's more educative, but I have a question, which is about as a teacher, you need to encourage your students, you need to give compliments, you need to celebrate passes and also make them feel good. With the part that you said, students' looks mustn't be complimented, I find it a bit dicey if you can throw more light on that, because many a time students need such compliments for them to also have a feel of belonging, and as well making them also understand and feel that their teacher likes them. And as young students, as young school aged, many of us understand that when your child really tells you about their teacher, it means that there's been something that they've been doing, or there has been some compliment that the child has been receiving from the teacher, which is why that particular child talks about the teacher. So can you throw more light on that? Thank you.
Okay. So one thing is, I mentioned that the comments, or the appreciation on physical appearance on daily basis can give some mixed message to children. Okay, on daily basis. However, yes, it is sometimes important, also necessary, to give a praise on how they look, but instead of saying that you are pretty or you are handsome, we can say that, okay, this color looks good on you, or I love what you are wearing, it really suits you, something like this. Because if I tell one child that you are pretty, and if I don't give the same compliment to the other child, they might not like it. Okay, and I feel, instead of commenting on the physical appearance, can we start giving them praise on the kindness, on the things that they do in the school, on the good things they do with their friends, on the way they are putting efforts in the school, on the way, even like the way they take care of themselves, or the way they are coming to school regularly, on those aspects. So physical is just one aspect of it, but we sometimes focus so much on that we actually forget on the kindness. Like, I'll tell you one thing. Once we were celebrating a teacher's birthday, and the student who was not part of our, whom we were not teaching, we were pre-primary teachers, and this child was in 8th grade or 9th grade, and she just came by and she saw we were wishing our colleague, and she also stood there to wish, and to wish the teacher. And I found it so nice, I found it so kind of her to just be there She could have just gone because it was her playtime. She was on her way to the ground, but she just stood there and, and wished the teacher. So I feel such things need to be appreciated or praised more, rather than just appearance or just the marks or the grades that children get. Okay. So that was my point. I hope I have answered your question to an extent.
Yes, you have. I really appreciate that. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Greshma. Thank you so much for your inspiring session. Everyone loved you. And we will be showcasing your recorded session on our platform, educationinfluence.com, along with other sessions, and also attaching Greshma and educational materials for all to share. Thank you so much, Greshma. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you all found some takeaways from this session. You can connect with me on the website, on LinkedIn, through Education Influence as well, through Instagram and Facebook as well. You can connect with me. Even if you still have question and you want to ask me, you can please drop a message and I would be happy to help you out and happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much, Anusha and Gavin, for organizing such an amazing event, which I couldn't say no to, which I wanted to be a part of, even though it was on the day of Diwali. I thought I couldn't miss it. I can't miss the event like this. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I hope you all have a good day, and I shall see you soon. Take care.
Thank you, Greshma. Thank you.
Bye.